afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a delight to have you here. We are very glad. I see folks on this call who are already accepted into the cohort, folks who are interviewing next week, some folks that are just beginning to explore, and we're grateful to have you all here. We'll try to make sure today is a very useful and productive time for you. So let me just introduce myself. I think I've communicated with most of you, but my name is Amber Johnson, and I'm the Chief Communications Officer here at the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. And I'm really glad you're able to join us today. Let me just give you a little bit of an overview of where we're headed, and I'll start first with sort of a software review. I think we're all Zoom pros by now, so I don't need to go over details like I used to, but just a reminder, out of courtesy to others, please do keep yourself on mute. That just helps us control the background noise. It's up to you whether you have your camera on or off. We are recording this, so if the camera is on, you'll show up on the recording of it, but that's entirely up to you. Just because we're not talking though, doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. That chat box is going to be open throughout the entire session. You can start now by sending your questions and directing them to me, Amber Johnson. I also have the questions that some of you submitted by email or with the registration form, and we'll do our best to get to all of those today, starting about 12:30. So here's where we're headed. In just a minute, we're going to do some introductions and let you know who's on the call from the program. And then Jim, the director of our program, is going to walk us through the format, the curriculum, what makes us distinctive. Then we'll hear from one of our recent graduates, Brett, who's on the call. And that'll take us through to about 12:30. And then the rest of the time we're going to spend just in Q&A. So again, definitely send me those questions through the chat box, and we'll cover as many as we can. And about 12:50, 12:55, we'll wrap up with next steps and how you can continue learning more, and we'll get you back to your workday. So that's our plan. Let me just briefly then introduce Jim, the director of our center. Jim Ludema is the director and co-founder of the Center for Values-Driven Leadership, and he's also a professor of global leadership. And it just so happens that both Brett and I did dissertations that were focused on global leadership. And so Jim was our chair and has the joy of working this weekend, I think, to help us make a submission deadline for articles that are coming up. He's a recognized expert in the field of global leadership and the field of workplace culture. And he earned his PhD from Case Western Reserve University and has been teaching executive students here at Benedictine for nearly 20 years. He's a leader in the study of appreciative inquiry, which you may hear us speaking about a little bit. It's an organizational change model and a model of leadership development. And he wrote the book, The Appreciative Inquiry Summit, which is a definitive text on the topic. I can also tell you, after having worked with him for more than a decade and known him for almost 20 years, that he is one of the brightest minds and just plain old kindest guys you'll ever meet. And when he's not working, he spends his free time cycling and traveling when we're not under these restrictions, and hanging out with his 6 grandkids, 2 of which were born in the last year. So that's a little bit about Jim, and let me now turn it over to him to do some further introductions.
Well, thank you, Amber. That was a very nice introduction. And hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today on this online open house. I would like to get started by introducing you to the other folks on the call who make up the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. Amber mentioned them briefly. But first, today we are joined by one of our recent graduates, Dr. Brett Hines. And Brett is joining us today from the Detroit area, where he is the chief engineer of Ford Motor Company's electrified powertrain high voltage component engineering. In this role, Brett is responsible for Ford's global hybrid and battery electric vehicle high voltage battery and component engineering processes. Brett has had an over 30-year career with Ford in the area of engine and powertrain product development, including assignments as a manager in powertrain research and as chief engineer of engine design in Ford's European office. Brett is a graduate from Lawrence Technological University, class of 1990, with a BS in mechanical engineering. In 1996, he earned a Master of Science in Engineering Management from Oakland University. And as Amber mentioned, just this spring, he completed his PhD in our program with a dissertation entitled The Nature of Global Leaders' Power. And it was a terrific piece of work. And Brett is already working on journal articles for publication derived from the dissertation. And Amber was correct when she mentioned that this weekend, I'm going to be working with Brett on one of those articles and also working with Amber on one of the articles from her dissertation as well. So Brett, it's wonderful to have you with us here today. Thanks so much for being here. Also on the call is Amber Johnson, whom you've already met. And as I am sure you have discovered, she is exceptional, a great ambassador for the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. She is our Chief Communications Officer and a Senior Research Associate, and is in charge of all of our marketing and communications and recruiting and thought leadership dissemination. Amber, as I mentioned, is also a recent graduate of our PhD program. She successfully defended her dissertation in May, along with Brett. And the dissertation explored the success factors in leading global change projects. And it too is an exceptional piece of work. And Amber has already published a number of articles based on her dissertation and has more in the pipeline. And today, Amber will share a little bit about the Center for Values-Driven Leadership, and then moderate our Q&A session. Next, I want to introduce you to our faculty and some of the distinguished visiting scholars that come to our program. As you can see on the slide, there are 3 core faculty members in addition to me, none of which are on the call today. They are Marie DiVirgilio, Gus Gustafson, and Mike Manning. And Marie, Gus, and Mike and I set the curriculum, and we anchor each of the courses in the program, and we chair students' dissertation committees, and then provide all kinds of support and continuity to our students throughout the process. Our distinguished visiting scholars teach alongside Marie, Mike, and me, and they provide our program a key competitive advantage over other programs. These are the top scholars from around the world who come to teach in their particular area of expertise. In most cases, they are the scholars who wrote the books and wrote the articles that you'll be reading in class. And they spend the weekend with us in class, talking about their ideas and talking about what's next in terms of their interests and research agendas. Featured here are the 3 individuals who have won our Students Award for Best Distinguished Visiting Scholar. They are Anjan Chakravarty from the University of Miami, who teaches philosophy of science, Inger Stensacker from the Norwegian School of Economics, who teaches qualitative research methods, and Kim Cameron, a legend in the field of positive organizational scholarship and a professor at the University of Michigan who teaches in the course on moral and ethical foundations of leadership. You can find a complete listing of our distinguished visiting scholars on our website, and I encourage you to take a look at that. So next, we would like to just share a little bit about the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. And for that, I'll turn it back over to Amber. Amber, take it away.
Thanks, Jim. So let me just say a few words about the center, because the program exists inside the center, which exists inside the College of Business. And as you can see here, we exist. Our purpose for being here is to help values-driven leaders develop themselves and others so that we can build flourishing companies and organizations and really have the transformative impact we want on business and society. And for us, when we say values-driven leadership, what we really mean is about doing business the right way. So it's about being clear and confident about your own core values, and then building values-based organizational cultures and practices that promote flourishing at every level. And when we say values, we mean things like honesty and integrity, care and compassion, inclusion, excellence, accountability, meaning, purpose, contribution to the greater good, things that are generally shared as being favored by the greater community. And so our purpose in that is to help change the way business is done. And by studying these values-driven companies and their leaders and telling their stories, and then helping to develop people along the way. Practically speaking, if you boil it down, what does that really look like? We really focus on three specific things: research, education, and practice. On the research side, the faculty and staff and students are engaged in a number of projects. Most of them are focused in some way on the link between culture and value and performance. For example, David Barnett in my cohort is focusing on how values are transmitted in intergenerational family businesses and how that influences measures of performance. Some of my other classmates, Selwa and Angie, looked at inclusion and what we can really do, what practices really help managers and leaders create inclusive organizations, and finding those active strategies that drive superior performance within that. And then, as Jim mentioned, I was focused on leading global change and what it takes to have successful outcomes when you have to work across multiple countries and time zones and environments and currencies, and in addition to just the technical complication of whatever the change is. Then, in addition to the PhD, we have developed a master's program in values-driven leadership that we offer inside companies in a variety of ways. It can be customized, and also non-degree executive education formats. In terms of practice, we have consulting services and customized executive education programs we take inside companies. And we also have an annual senior executive roundtable each year. And they're really fun learning experiences where we bring 100 or so leaders from the business community together with our scholars for a day to dig into some aspect of values-driven leadership. These are the leading thinkers, and they're coming to talk to us about emotional intelligence or leading change, leading teams, inclusion, working with millennials, building positive organizational cultures, topics like that that are sort of of pressing interest to the whole business community. And of course, we offer our ongoing executive education free monthly webinar as well. All right, let me turn it back over to you, Jim, to dig into the dissertation program itself.
Sounds good, Amber. Thank you. As you may know, we began the doctoral program in 2011, and we're currently recruiting for our 6th cohort. And on the screen, you can see many of our graduates and current students, and we're just incredibly proud of the work that they do. You know, they're executives changing the way that business is done, some of them in more major corporations like Ford Motor Company and Brett, or Boeing, Exelon, Allstate. Some of them are founders and CEOs of small to mid-sized firms. Some of them are commanders, colonels, generals in the US Armed Forces. You may have seen articles recently about the commanding general of the National Guard in Washington, DC, William Walker. He's a current student in our doctoral program. And some of them are leaders in nonprofits and higher education, such as the Girl Scouts USA and Valparaiso University. And it's really these values-driven leaders who were instrumental in helping us receive recognition as the #1 PhD program in leadership from HR.com in 2017 and 2018. And I suspect that we would have won it again in 2019 and 2020, but HR.com stopped giving that award. But next, I would like to just share with you a little bit about the format and curriculum of the program, and then walk you through some of the features that I believe make it especially distinctive. And I'll move rather quickly to save time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to start sending Amber any questions that you might have via the chat function. In terms of the format of the program, as most of you know, it's a 3-year program. And in the first 2 years, you attend classes 1 weekend a month, plus a 6-day intensive in June. And this format allows our students to fly in from across the country and around the world to attend class. Then in the 3rd year, you don't need to come to campus. You work with your dissertation committee to conduct original research about a topic of your choice. And you just interact with them via Zoom, via email, face-to-face if you want to, depending on the context, but you don't have to come to class. Now, of course, right now, during the coronavirus, we are not able to meet in person. We've been required since March of last year to hold all of our classes on Zoom, and the university has asked us to do so through mid-March of this year. We're not sure what's going to happen after March this year, but we're hoping that we can begin to meet again face to face as soon as possible. We want to do this because we prioritize face-to-face learning, and our students tell us that they prefer face-to-face learning as well, because so much of the richness of the program comes from the relationships that get built in the cohort and the incredible classroom conversations and dynamic that happens, as students from across the country come together with our faculty and our distinguished visiting scholars. And we're all in the room together in a very deep, rich, spirited dialogue around the theory and practice of leadership. We've gotten pretty good at doing the same thing or creating the same kind of environment on Zoom, but our desire is to return to in-person classes as soon as safely possible. That may be as soon as April, but I doubt it. My hunch is that it will probably be in the summer. And even then, when we go back to having face-to-face classes, if there are students who are not comfortable for health reasons traveling, we will accommodate them virtually via Zoom and other tools as well. But onto the curriculum then. Our curriculum covers 4 main areas: global leadership, strategic change, corporate responsibility, and of course, research methods to prepare you to do your own research in the 3rd year of the program. And we look at each of these topics through the lens of what it means for you to lead yourself, lead others, lead the organization strategically, and then to lead in society. And you can find a full list of classes and descriptions on our website, and I encourage you to read through them and ask us any questions that you might have about them. Now, also as part of the curriculum, you attend 3 conferences, and that's as part of the regular course curriculum. In year 1, you attend the leading conference in the field of management, the annual meeting of the Academy of Management. For 2021, this meeting has already announced that it will be online. And so that's how we'll attend, online. In year 2, you attend the annual conference of the International Leadership Association, which is the leading conference for leadership scholars. Now, both the Academy of Management Conference and the ILA, the International Leadership Association conferences are just phenomenal opportunities to meet with top thinkers in the field, to explore cutting edge research on topics that you're passionate about, and then also to present your own research and your own case studies and get feedback on them. Finally, you have a requirement to attend a global conference of your choice at some point in the program. And our students and faculty have traveled to many different parts of the world: Belgium, Dubai, France, India, Ireland, Italy, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Spain, the UK, and other places. And we go to those places, to these conferences, to engage in high quality learning exchanges with top scholars and executives from other countries and cultures. We made those conferences a required part of the curriculum because we have found that students who attend them make connections with top scholars from around the world. They get exposed to new, promising ideas, and then they make better, faster progress in their knowledge of the field and on their dissertations. So it is a big benefit to the students to attend those conferences. Additionally, we have a great time when we go to those conferences. Traveling with your fellow students and faculty is always a great time and a great thing to do, assuming that it's safe to travel. Now, I want to quickly share a few things that I think make our program distinctive. First, the program is for senior leaders who, like Brett and Amber, want to change the world through business. And this is based on the idea that business is currently the most powerful institution on the planet and the institution with the greatest potential to influence positive change. And so we're looking for people who share this conviction and want to be a part of a learning community that will help them advance their life and their careers in this direction, all from a values-driven perspective. Second, it's a program for people who just love to learn. It's different from any other doctoral program out there, whether it's a traditional doctoral program, an executive program, an online program. Ours is designed to help you grow as a leader, as a scholar, and as a person. And we have found that the students who thrive best in our program are those who just really open themselves to the world of ideas and jump in with both feet and explore as many theories and models and perspectives and experiences as possible, and then engage in deep, meaningful learning with others, almost like a wide-eyed child. The next point I want to make is that it's a scholar practitioner program. And that means that the faculty and the visiting scholars bring their best, most cutting edge ideas into the classroom, and students like Brett and Amber do the same. And then together we build new theory, we do new research, and then we test our ideas in the world of practice. So in this program, you're not just a consumer of knowledge the way you would be in an undergrad or a master's program. You become a creator of new knowledge, a creator of new ideas and new models and new approaches that you and others can apply in your organizations, and then also write up and publish to advance the state of the art of the field. Now, that may sound a little intimidating. We know that some of you haven't been in the classroom for years, but that's not a problem. We will come alongside you and support you as you make the transition to being a scholar practitioner. We can say more about the ways in which we do that, but one very important one is that we provide you with a world-class writing coach who is also a graduate of our program, so she knows it very well. And she'll give you multiple rounds of personalized feedback to help you get up to speed on academic writing. Which leads me to our next point, and that is that the program is highly student-centric. It's designed to be completed in 3 years, compared to 5 to 7 years for most doctoral programs. We've already discussed the format of class once a month, plus a 6-day intensive, and that allows you to be in class on the weekend and still put in a full week of work. You can select one of 2 tracks, a more research-focused PhD track or a more practice-oriented DBA track. All of the coursework is scheduled to help you make progress towards your dissertation beginning day 1 of the program. And you can focus your dissertation on pretty much any topic you wish within the fields of leadership and sustainability and strategic change, broadly defined. And you'll get an unusually high level of faculty, staff, alumni, and fellow student support in the program. We're a community of learners fully committed to your success once you're accepted into the program. The next point I want to make is that we work hard to make the program a truly global learning community. We bring as much diversity into the student body as possible. And then, as previously mentioned, much of the teaching in the program is done by visiting scholars from leading universities around the globe. And you'll also take an international trip to help you connect, build connections with scholars and practitioners working in different global contexts, because we believe that values-driven leaders need to understand the global context, because globalization is changing the way we work. And then finally, our students tell us that the program is distinct in its ability to transform. And we provide a safe and inviting space in which you can sort of find your edges and push your edges and open yourself to personal and professional transformation. You'll make lifelong friendships in this program, and you'll test the boundaries of your knowledge and your discipline and your resilience. And you'll dig deeply into what truly matters for you, and you'll rethink the way you lead and the way you serve. And you'll see the results from that, not just in earning the diploma, but also in your life and leadership as well. So those are the points I want to make. And now I want to give Brett a chance to share his experience with the program so that you can hear that directly from a student and graduate of our program. So Brett, I'll turn it over to you, and then after that, we'll move into the Q&A session. Brett, all yours.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, so everything Jim said, I agree with 100%. The program was no battery. Hold on. Once I completed my master's, I really decided I wanted to go get a doctorate, and it took me quite a while to get back engaged to find that doctorate. But I came across this program, and it met a couple things that were really important to me. It was really about the values aspect of it. It wasn't just education. It was really about trying to learn about leadership as a fundamental principle and as the values of being a leader. The second thing that it really found was the cohort community was important to me, and then the real selling point for me was the visiting scholars and meeting the people that literally wrote the book. You know, and it's visiting you. They would hand you a book and they would hand you a paper and say, "Hey, read this one." And you was the author. And many times, what was really powerful about that was they could really expand on the content and the context of the story to bring it another dimension to it, to really bring it life. They would tell you stuff that was happening, why it happened, and other aspects of it and stuff like that. So that was a really important part for me, and I found it incredibly valuable. One of the things you'll hear kind of is that you'll learn something over the weekend and then you'll start applying it right away, and that was absolutely true too. I would learn something and suddenly you go back to work and you'd see work and you'd see other relationships at work and you'd see challenges you were having at work, and you'd understand them from a different perspective all of a sudden. And you could be more effective, you could contribute better. And that's carried through with me. And for my goal was to become a better leader at the outset of the program. And I feel very confident. I'm a much better leader than I was before. I understand how to lead myself now. I understand what kind of my motivations. So one of the slides that Jim showed was really about learning how to lead yourself, then learning how to lead teams, really then learning how to lead in organizations and in society. And you really do, as you go through the program, you start developing those muscles and you really start getting into it. And, even now, 2 years post completing all the coursework, I'm still in meetings and it's like you have a different insight when you're dealing with other people and stuff like that, and you're working in the organization. And even if you're not leading them, what you can do is you can lead them through questions. I just recently did this. We were talking about installing a new plant. And I asked questions about, have you considered the environmental impact of how this plant's going to look, where it's going to get its power from? How's it going to affect the community? These aren't even things that are in my scope. But what I can do is I'm causing the organization to think, well, these are things we should be considering, and we do have to take that in perspective. And you're kind of forcing the people to think about things that maybe they haven't thought about yet either. So for me, those elements of the program really, really helped establish what I think was a hugely successful program for me.
Terrific, Brett. Thank you very much for those comments. And Amber, let me turn it over to you for the Q&A session.
All right, thanks to everybody who's been sending questions in. You can continue to do so. Just use that chat function, select my name, Amber Johnson, and drop me a note. But I do have a long list of questions to get us started on. And Jim, I'm going to ask you the very first one. We often do this one first because it's important for people to understand the difference. Can you explain the difference between the PhD program and the DBA program just a little more clearly?
Yeah, the difference is not huge. And you don't have to decide whether you want to be a PhD in the PhD track or the DBA track until late in the second year of the program. I think technically maybe you have to, when you enroll into the program, you have to enroll in one track or the other, but you can switch tracks whenever you like. And the difference is this: in the PhD track, you do original research using conventional research methods, quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods. And then your objective is to contribute to the literature, like Brett and Amber are doing. They're now publishing based on that dissertation to influence the state of the art of the field and the way we understand global leadership. So they're contributing to the literature, contributing to the field in that way. In the DBA track, it's a more practice-oriented degree. You don't have to use conventional research methods. What we ask you to do is to do some kind of change project or leadership development project in your organization or in your community, and then write up a robust case study of it with lessons learned. And yeah, you've got to link your lessons learned to the literature and show how what you discovered in your case study relates to the field, but you don't have to use the conventional research methods, and you don't necessarily have to go on to publish it. It could just be for the organization, or it could just be for your own learning and learning of others in your organization. So those are the differences. But again, like I say, you don't have to make the final decision until late in the second year of the program. You know, once you've been through a lot of the curriculum, had some of the research methods courses, you know, understand that all a little bit more deeply, then you make the decision about which way you want to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, Brett, next question's for you. I think everybody understands that class weekend, you're there, you're focused, but what happens between the class weekends? Are there expectations you need to be somewhere at a certain time? What kind of work are you doing? Can you explain a little?
Yeah, the course weekend, which typically would say is about 15 hours a week, is the program will say you need about 15 hours per week to really be doing coursework. And that's reading and writing. It's pretty much what it comes down to. Your first year, you'll probably average a little bit lower than that. Your second year, you're going to average a little bit higher than that. A big part of it is reading papers. So best you read some of the most. It's really nice because the program picks out these papers and says, this is a good one, you should read this one. And sometimes in reflection, where you read it, but then later in reflection, you'll figure out that it was a really good paper and it did make a lot of sense. So oftentimes there was a lot of reading in the middle. I would typically read on the weekends. And then if I had writing to do, writing's a very laborious thing for me, but so I would typically write in the evenings after work. So I would end my work day at like 5, and then I might spend an hour and a half writing while still in the office, and then I would leave for home. And I would do that, you know, a couple days, you know, a couple Mondays, you know, a couple days a week kind of thing. I myself travel for my job, so oftentimes I would flying on planes. I would read instead of sleeping or watching movies. I would read or write on planes and stuff like that, or in airports. Hotel rooms at night, you know, just filling in all that time. So that way, when you do get time with your family, you could spend value time with them. Moving into the second half, when you get a dissertation, there's a lot of time when you really have to be self-motivated. You have to be doing research. You have to be doing writing. You have to commit to it because it's easier to chip away at something for 2 hours on a weekend than try and push through 40 hours in a week kind of thing, writing your paper. So you got to, what's really important is to develop a schedule. I'll close on this. really important you kind of develop a schedule that works for you. I know Amber used to get up really early in the morning and work in the morning. I preferred to work, like, set aside one weekend and spend the entire the weekend working. So you find a schedule for you, you get your family and friends to commit that this is your schedule, and then they know to leave you alone during those times.
Yeah, my kids are a little younger than Brett's. They don't always know to leave me alone. But yeah. And I would just add to, one of the things that I always found really advantageous was that when you leave class on Sunday night, I knew what I had to do before I came back the next time, but there wasn't really an obligation to be somewhere else for the program. So there's not a Monday night or Tuesday night meeting you have to join. You know, occasionally you have a group project, not a ton of those, but you know, you might have to schedule something, but then you'd schedule a time that worked for you and your group members. And occasionally we also will do a session on a Tuesday night and make it optional. So like Brett and another of our classmates, Tasha, talked with a new cohort about their dissertation process. It was on a weeknight evening. Anyone who could attend live did, and then we recorded the session to be viewed by anyone who wasn't able to attend live. So, you know, we do have opportunities like that, but really when you leave class on Sunday until you come back a month later, that time is open for you to use as you need to be ready for the next class and to wrap up your work from the prior class. Jim, a question for you. You know, the program's a big investment of time and money, and then you finish. What benefits do we see in the careers of our graduates? How have you seen people do different things, try new things as a result of the program?
But that's a great question. And, you know, it just opens up so many opportunities. And, you know, a lot of folks, I would say about 60% of our graduates stay in industry, like Brett. You know, Brett came in, he was a senior exec at Ford. He finished his degree. He's still a senior exec at Ford. Now he's moving into new areas and potentially new positions. And a lot of our graduates do that. You know, may even leave one company to go to another. But you know, the opportunities open up based on the degree, even staying in industry. Another, I would say, you know, 25%, maybe 30%, yeah, probably 25 of the students go into some combination of consulting and teaching, adjunct teaching. You know, they may have been in a corporate career for many years and they want to transition out, or maybe they already run a consulting firm. And this opens up new opportunities in that space, certainly for the consulting and even more so for the teaching, because universities are always looking for, you know, faculty members, whether full-time or adjunct, that have PhDs. I would say 10-15% of our graduates go into full-time teaching. You know, for example, Mike Chicalese, when he got done with the program, he decided to go into academia. He took a position down in Louisiana and is now has an endowed professorship at Valparaiso University. Shannon Brown is another one who, after graduating, went to teach at St. Francis University. Carrie Carfagno from cohort 1 is now a professor at University of Virginia. And so, you know, it opens up a lot of different opportunities, whether it's remaining in business, whether it's going into some combination of consulting and teaching, or whether it's going into full-time academia.
Yeah. Another thing I would add, I know at least a couple of our graduates are working on books as well, drawing from their research or their research skills.
Yeah, a couple of our graduates have already published books and others are working on books, correct?
Yep, absolutely. All right, Brett, I wonder if you could just talk us through a class weekend in particular, and maybe describe the classroom environment and where that's located, and then what kind of things happen in class as well.
So I was a traveler, so I had to come in from Detroit to Chicago. So my day would typically start Friday morning, where I'd get up. I usually do a few things around the house, and I would set off on the road about 12 or noon. It's about a 5-hour drive from Detroit to Chicago, so I would make that drive. You know, I'd do conference calls on the way. I'd talk to my family along the way. And then I'd arrive to school, check in the hotels, which there's many hotels that are local. then class starts, grab a quick bite for dinner, class starts on Friday night, you drag all the way through class because it's been such a long day, but by 9:30 at night, class is over, back to the hotel. But then Saturday morning comes. Saturday morning is kind of a fresh day because everybody's fresh then. You start class, I think starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, runs till there's a lunch, and then ends at 4 o'clock. And then what ends up happening is there's kind of two groups of people. There are going to be travelers and local people. And local people would often go back home, particularly the first year. They go home at night because they have a family to take care of. The travelers would all get together at some local restaurant. We'd commiserate about the class weekend a little bit. And then we'd have a next day. You do the same thing on Sunday. And then Sunday night after class, I'd drive back to Detroit. As the course goes on, you start establishing friends and colleagues and stuff like that. We actually had some of the locals would actually start spending time at school. They'd actually go join for dinner. The camaraderie is getting, there's more camaraderie with your colleagues, stuff like that. The group projects sometimes are getting a little more involved, so you spend more time with them. So that would be kind of the framework around it. Through a class period, it's often, depending on the professor themselves, there's usually a little bit of lecture, there's some student presentation, there's usually a lot of dialogue about what are we really reading and what's our experience with the concept that we were talking about. And I actually found that probably the most valuable thing of it, because you get perspective and context from different organizations, and it really brings the theories and the readings to life. And then that would be, and that's kind of the course for the weekend. Sometimes the teachers would give us, an assignment during the middle of the day. You'd have to wrap that up on Saturday night and then do that on Sunday, or due on Sunday kind of thing. But it's not really intensive. There was not a lot of extra reading in there. You weren't up till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get something done for the next day or anything like that. It was really about the weekends are about filling in all the reading that you had done the month prior. And then really coming together and being able to ask questions about it, explore the concepts, and then really build on the content that you get developed in the course material from the 4 weeks prior.
Thank you. Great. Jim, a question for you. How can folks learn about the faculty and their areas of research and to know if they align well in terms of what people are studying, who they might want to partner with, if the research that's coming out of the center aligns with them?
Yeah, you can certainly go to our website and look at our profiles on the website. Are our CVs on the website, Amber? Are they posted on the website or no?
The CVs are not, but the bios are, and in the program booklet as well, there's a line about each faculty member's research interest.
Sounds good. And if you are interested in getting a more in-depth look at our publications and so forth, you can request from Amber our CVs, and we can send those to you so that you can take a deeper look. But then also, once you're in the program, each of the faculty members will be teaching / anchoring different courses along the way. So you'll get to know them really well throughout the course of the program. And we also have a couple of sessions in the first year, a couple of sessions in the second year, where we invite you to present to the class your potential dissertation topics or your potential dissertation research interests. And then you'll get feedback from the faculty and the other students in those sessions, and the faculty will talk about their areas of expertise and how they relate to what you're doing. So you'll get to learn that more deeply in those dialogues as well. And then the same is true when we go to the conferences, the Academy of Management Conference, the International Leadership Association Conference, and the International Trip and Conference. There's lots of time to hang out with faculty, to talk about research ideas, talk about their areas of interest, go to sessions with them in their areas of interest, and so forth, and to present at those conferences with faculty. And so for example, I suspect that over the course of the time that you, Brett, and you, Amber, were in the program, I must have presented with you on different aspects of global leadership probably 10 times in different conferences and venues, along with some of our distinguished visiting scholars and some of our other students. And then, you know, Mike Manning, I'm sure, presented with you or others on emotions in organizations or organizational change. And so that's another opportunity to get to know the faculty. So you'll get to know the research interests and areas of the faculty in depth throughout the course of the program.
And I think a thing I would maybe add to that is, you know, if you have a research topic that is generally related to leadership and management and change, it's going to be very hard pressed to find an angle on it that our faculty doesn't have experience with. But at the same time, our goal is for you to be writing about what you're passionate about, the questions that drive you. And so when we do stumble on an area that we don't have bench strength in, then when it gets to your dissertation, we surround you with committee members who are subject matter experts in that. So for example, right now we have a student who's very interested in peace leadership. She wants to know about community level interactions in places like Rwanda that are recovering from genocide, and how individuals create relationships that build towards peace. That's a really specific niche area. None of us specifically had experience in that area, but we're stacking her committee member with the leading thought leaders in the area of peace leadership, so that she knows she's got the qualitative methods support from our team and the subject matter support from her whole committee.
Amber, let me just add another word on that too. You know, one of the things I mentioned earlier is that one of the things that we pride ourselves on, one of the distinctives of our program from my perspective, is the very high level of support that students get from our faculty. And so at any point during the program, if a student has an idea that they want to pursue, you know, probably Amber, the first time you wanted to, you know, do something on global leadership, you probably sent a paragraph on what you wanted to do to Mike, to Gus, to Marie, to me, and got our feedback on it. And we're always available by email, phone, text, whatever the case may be, to engage with you around topics of interest.
Yeah, and then you take, oh, go ahead, Brett.
The teachers are very accessible. So Jim himself, very accessible. Joanna Beth Tweedy, one of the expert writers that they bring in, very accessible. Shoot them an email, feedback within, you know, I'd say within a day, no problem. Sometimes often within a matter of minutes, you know, kind of thing. So it's really great resource, the faculty and the resources that Benedictine has to offer and stuff like that. So there's a huge safety net under you, and it gives you that opportunity to go explore things and ask questions you would maybe have reservations otherwise on.
Yeah, and the same for the visiting scholars. Joyce Osland is one of the leading scholars in global leadership. She was on my committee as well as Brett's. And I took her out for dinner one night and just asked her questions. And then we met up at a conference, and she pulled in another one of her co-authors and helped me brainstorm how to think about the topic. And I think almost all of our students can tell a similar story of getting connections to others in the field that have really helped direct our thinking. All right, I want to close. We have one final question, and then I think the rest of the questions we can kind of cover in our next steps. But one final question for you, Brett, and then I'll ask you to follow up on it, Jim. In your experience, Brett, how do you know if you're flourishing or floundering in the program, other than your grades? How do you know if it's going okay, if it's going well? So I'll hear from Brett and then from Jim.
My metric was, Jim mentioned earlier, being a lifelong learner, and sometimes I would leave with just like, wow, did I learn so much this weekend? And I would call my wife on the way back from Chicago so I could keep myself, you know, occupied while driving, and just spend an hour telling her everything I'd learned and how it was just like what I'd seen at work, and it was just really exciting. And one of the things when I picked my dissertation topic, it was global leadership, and I saw Joyce speak at a conference, and as she was speaking, it was like she was talking directly to me. It was kind of like, oh, she's talking to me, kind of thing. And you connect with the material then at that point, and you just feel like you're growing. You feel like it's, you know, energizing almost. There were a few topics we got to, all of a sudden you're kind of like, okay, wait, 5 minutes, that's all it's been. But so you can tell, and it's really your energy level, your interest, your, I want to go read more about that kind of thing. And that's when you're really flourishing. And there are materials that somebody's really excited about, global economics and the shift in the interest rates. And you're kind of like, okay, are we done with this yet? But so you feel that, but somebody else is completely energized in the room when that's going on. And so that's kind of exciting and stuff like that. So you can definitely tell. And there are what they call these dark moments of the soul occasionally you'll get to, and it's like, I don't think I can read one more thing. I don't want to read one more thing about change management. And you just have to set it aside and take a deep breath and say, I'll revisit that in a couple of days. And then it's okay. You'll kind of get back up on the horse and you'll start working on it again.
So I can chime in on that. One of the things I mentioned earlier is how the program is very student-centric, and this is another way in which we try to be very student-centric. Is there's nothing we love more as faculty than to have a student find his or her topic that just really turns them on, that really excites them, that really is just spot on for what they want to do. And Brett was one of those cases. Brett is a global leader. I mean, he leads teams. He's got people in South Korea, in China, in Mexico, in Germany, in the UK, and other places around the world. He's constantly leading these global teams. And it's very complex because, as Amber said, you've got different political regimes, economic regimes, legal regimes, cultures, languages, and so on. And yet you need to get work done through those channels. And so Brett was he was really interested in this question about how do global leaders exert influence when, people are so far away and there are so many sort of layers that, sort of keep them apart from each other. And so, when he finally got to that topic of really wanting to study the nature of global leaders' power, you could just see a light bulb go on. He was so excited about it. And the same thing happened with Amber. That's one of the things that we're constantly doing as faculty, is trying to help students find that thing. And it's not an undergrad program. It's not a master's program. We're not, it's not about A's and B's. Yeah, you do get grades for your courses, but it's really about helping you find what you want to study, finding the contribution you want to make to the world, and helping you to make that in a powerful way and to contribute to the field by doing it. That's what really excites us, and that's what we're constantly working with our students to help make happen. And so, we're constantly giving feedback, we're constantly steering you towards resources, but it's not, sort of like we're telling you, yeah, you're good, or no, you're not. It's like, how can I help you get to where you want to go? I think that's all I wanted to say about that. I hope I explained it well. One other thing I did want to say, Amber, I saw the chat from Selena, and maybe you already responded to that, but she said, where does the on-site take place when people, when we're on site? And it happens in the Goodwin College of Business building on campus in Lisle, Illinois, which is just outside Chicago. And the entire fourth floor of that building is dedicated to our program and the other doctoral program, the PhD program in organization development. And we've got an executive classroom up there, plus a student lounge. All of our offices are up there. It's a beautiful building and a beautiful room and facility in which to operate. And it's 30 minutes from O'Hare Airport and 30 minutes from Midway Airport. So if you do have to fly in, it's very convenient. And as Brett said, there are lots of hotels at different price points within a 5 to 10 minute drive from the campus.
Terrific. Thank you for clarifying that. And I know I'm going to talk about the application process in just a second, so that'll answer one of our final questions. We did have a question about where the conferences are held, and the conference organizations set those locations. In 2021, the Academy of Management Conference is going to be virtual. And in 2022, the ILA conference, I think, is scheduled for Washington, D.C. And then, of course, the global conference, you choose where you want to go. The first opportunity will be Geneva, Switzerland this fall, if travel conditions permit. A lot of our folks go to Dublin. There's a lot of opportunities, and that varies a little. All right, our time is getting away from us, so I need to move us closer to wrap up. I just want to talk for a minute about how you can learn more about the program, because we know this is something you have to do a lot of due diligence about. And so I'm sure by now you've probably found this page on our website, cbdl.ben.edu/doctorate. Each of these orange areas is a link you can get to find more information about the program. And in particular, you can read bios of our students and graduates and of our faculty and visiting scholars. You can review the course descriptions like Jim mentioned, and then you can actually read whole dissertations or even just skim the topic areas. We talked a lot about global leadership today, but there is a wide range of research that's being done at the center. And so skim that and see if there's something that appeals to you and take a look at it. And then of course, when you're ready to apply, it's this link in the lower right-hand corner right here where you can do that. And someone had asked if the GRE is required. Let me reassure you, nope. No tests are required to apply for our program. In fact, there are no tests in our program. We do qualifying papers instead of tests. And someone also asked, there are 2 letters of reference that are required, one professional and one academic. And if it's been a while since you've been in school and you don't have a clear academic contact, we understand that happens. That's okay. We're really looking for someone who can speak to your capacity to read, write, and think at a doctoral level. So find a second professional contact and have them write your letter of reference and make sure they address your readiness for doctoral studies. Anything you'd add to that, Jim?
No, ma'am, that's good.
All right. We also on our website at this web address have a session called Preparing for Your PhD. It's a pre-recorded webinar that's about 50 minutes long. And today we went through the basics of the program. And this webinar, it's for people who are really thinking about the program and want to kind of assess what would this mean for my life? How can I get myself ready? What technology do I need to have? What kind of time is it going to take? And that should give you a really good overview. So we encourage you to listen to it. Here's our timeline. We're now accepting applications. Our early deadline was back in November. We accept applications until the cohort is full. And I think we have about 19 committed with about 6 more interviews scheduled. And we accept around 25. So we were really beginning to approach that full level. I think we will stop taking applications or actively seeking them in February. So if you do plan to apply for the April cohort, now is the time. Do it this weekend. Make sure we come in on Monday morning to find your application in our inbox, because we'd love a chance to consider you, and the time is running short. And then orientation begins on April 8th, and we'll get the cohort together and let them get to know each other and go over some of the workings of how the program goes and then start classes after that. Of course, we want you to be engaged with the center even outside the doctoral program. And so I want to encourage you to visit this address, our website /develop, because we offer a free monthly executive ed session that's available to the general public. So you can share this with your colleagues. We've got February on inclusion, March on leading change, and April on transformational leadership, especially with Latinx colleagues. And so great topics that can guide your leadership. Please come and join us. We'd love that. And Jim, let me turn it over to you to bring us home.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amber. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We appreciate you coming and showing interest in our program. And just to sort of summarize what we're looking for a dynamic group of senior leaders who want to change the world through a values-driven approach to business, who just love to learn and to grow and to develop as leaders and scholars and people, and who want to push the frontiers of the field, both in terms of theory and practice, and who want to do all of that as part of a global learning community of like-minded, smart, fun, values-driven leaders. And we hope that you are one of those persons. So thanks again, Brett, thank you for being with us. Amber, thank you for everything you did to make this possible. Thank you, all of the folks who attended. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And with that, we are adjourned.